Well, welcome everyone to the 2021 Olympia Neighborhoods Candidate Forum. My name is Paul Horton. A little bit of background information before we get going is the City of Olympia created the Recognized Neighborhood Association Program in 1989. And neighborhood associations today conduct social events and improvement projects and promote activities to enhance the quality of life of our neighborhoods and as a way to communicate neighborhood interests with the city. There are currently 35 recognized neighborhoods who share information and collaborate under the Council of Neighborhood Associations. And you can learn more about that and how to be involved in a neighborhood association by sending an email to cna.olympia@gmail.com. Several neighborhood associations have come together to sponsor this 2021 Council Election Forum that will focus on issues of particular interest to the city's neighborhoods. I want to give special thanks to our team of forum organizing neighborhoods, and they include the Bigelow Neighborhood, Highlands Neighborhood Association, the Downtown Neighborhood Association, East Side Neighborhood Association, East Bay Drive Neighborhood Association, Nottingham Community Association, and the Southwest Side Olympia Neighborhood Association. Also want to give some thanks to the Council of Neighborhood Associations itself, and special appreciation to Thurston Community Media for providing the venue and the resources to make this virtual forum possible. All 10 of the Olympia candidates for the 5 positions up for election this November were invited to participate. Only one candidate, Spence Weigand, who sent his regrets, was not able to participate. Actually, I'll check that. Talana Reed was unavailable at the last minute for personal reasons. So as to the questions that are going to be asked of the candidates, we selected 5 questions based on a lot of input from Olympia Neighborhood Association submissions, the majority of which fell into the following categories: housing, public safety, homelessness, neighborhood engagement and recognition, and land use. Now, the way this will work is each candidate will be given up to 2 minutes to answer each question. And at the end of that, they'll have 2 minutes for a closing statement. In this case, and we're talking here about position number 7, since Spence Weigand is unavailable today, we will just be having City Council member Jim Cooper with us today. And again, so thank you for participating in this neighborhood forum and for furthering the community's engagement in civic life. I'm going to start in on the questions. And just to remind you, I'm going to read the first question. But Councilmember Cooper, you'll have an opportunity before you answer this first question to spend, say, 30 seconds or so just to introduce yourself any way you would like. So this first question is in the category of neighborhood engagement and recognition. So this year, the City of Olympia commissioned a community engagement and public opinion survey. And the city's consultants found that only 28% agree that neighborhoods are engaged in decision-making, and only 16% feel confident the city listens to resident feedback. So given these low numbers, if re-elected to the City Council, what would you do to improve on engaging neighborhoods and instilling confidence that the Olympia residents are being listened to? And again, you do have, if you want to start by with any 30 seconds or so to introduce yourself, you're welcome to do so.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you to Thurston Community Media and the neighborhoods and all of the volunteers who put this together, because I know it's a huge lift and way more important this year than any other year, because we're less able to talk to voters than we normally would because of the pandemic. So I am Jim Cooper. I'm in my 10th year of service to the community. I love serving Olympia. This has been a tough last couple of years. We're governing in 5 emergencies. We have a housing emergency, an opioid emergency, a climate emergency, a pandemic emergency, and we're the economic emergency that comes with all of those and really causes pretty great inequity in our community. We have 10,000 families or of our neighbors who are struggling to get by every single day in our city, and to me that's just not acceptable. I'm the chair of the city's finance committee. I'm the chair of the new Regional Housing Council, which I helped create, and the chair of the Olympic Region Clean Air Agency. My priorities are build as much housing as we can of all types, implement our climate goals, and really look at financial stability for all Olympians. So thank you for having me. And now to your question. The neighborhoods are really important, and I'm really pleased with Olympia's work in the sub-area planning. I think that's the best way we have to engage the neighborhoods in the long-term outcomes in their own neighborhoods. And I look forward to bringing that sort of back to full scale. I think right now it's been tampered by the pandemic and everything that's going on. But to me, that's a strong way to engage. I'd also really like to look at how do we engage different kinds of neighbors that typically aren't at the table. And to me, it's really about how, we can have renters and homeowners alike at the same table, looking at what parts of our community is not represented in the recognized neighborhood associations, so that we can create, new avenues for those folks to come to the table and have their voice heard. I will say the thing that I know about Olympia is when the neighbors speak up, we take action. Whether you're talking about parks or climate, saving the LBA woods, that's what we do. And I want to see more of that. I love to see the CNA shifted into a formal advisory committee that has a representative makeup of the city of Olympia sitting at the table and helping the city council with policy in a much more direct way than it does now. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Our second question is related to homelessness. A senior member of a community living in a neighborhood of older, modest homes east of downtown Olympia wrote, "I see more and more RVs encamped along city roads with unmanaged trash and nuisance behaviors, for instance, nudity or public urination, all despite city outreach and cleanup efforts. And I worry that these RVs will soon start parking on streets where families live." Also noted was that when the state of Washington recently cleared and prohibited RV parking along Deschutes Parkway, some of these RVs are now parking on Olympia's streets. So if reelected to the city council, what would you do to prevent the spread of these encampments in Olympia? Two-part question, sorry. What would you do to prevent the spread of these encampments in Olympia? And then what actions will you take to have Tumwater, Lacey, and the county step up and provide a safe and sanitary place for people that have no home or other than an RV to park legally?
Okay,
and if you want me to repeat a question at any time.
Let me just make sure I got it. Prevent the spread and get our neighbors to help.
Yeah, essentially.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I think this thing I'll start with is I'm a co-founder of the new Thurston Regional Housing Council, and we've been working to really bring our neighbors together. You saw articles in the paper within the last week about that. In fact, there's an article today in the paper about Lacey and Thurston County looking to buy a hotel to help with that conversation. There was an article last week about the move to help move the RVs away from our hospital. You're absolutely right. A lot of the RV situation we have now is because neighbors, whether neighboring cities or the state, have moved people off of their property with policies that have shifted them to Olympia. We have to move that camp away from the hospital. The county's working on a very quick plan to move the 30 most vulnerable folks out of that camp and move them out to Carpenter Road temporarily, while the city and the county look at buying a piece of property to move the whole camp away from Ensign Road and hopefully more RVs from around our community to a place where they can shelter safely, and then we can build housing similar to the new housing development built by Interfaith Works and Lehigh at 2828 Martin Way across from the library. Or across from the bowling alley, sorry. We have 60 units there and another homeless shelter with 65 beds that will open this winter. And then right down the street at the foam factory, we have Interfaith Works opening another 45-bed shelter that should be ready in the first or second week of November. I believe it's going under construction currently. So there is a lot going on. We have a lot more to do, and we need our partners. Frankly, the biggest thing we need right now is more permanent supportive housing. So our Regional Housing Council set a stretch goal, and we're asking the county to implement a countywide home fund like Olympia's, so we can continue to meet our most vulnerable neighbors where they are and do more to serve them and get them into secure and safe housing. So thank you.
Thank you. Third question is on the topic of public safety. Public safety is an important issue, of course, to neighborhoods. And according to the city's own survey, 79% of residents think downtown is on the wrong track, and only 24% feel safe downtown at night. Another survey on city parks showed 42% of residents indicated there are parks in the city of Olympia where they do not currently feel safe. So given that what Olympia has been doing so far is believed to be on the wrong track, if elected or re-elected to the council, what would you do differently to address the safety and security concerns of residents in neighborhoods, the downtown, and in parks?
Yeah, as I mentioned, we are governing in the middle of 5 emergencies. We are not unique. Every city in Western United States is struggling with these issues. We can continue to do as much as we can, but we really need massive state and federal help. We have this financial inequity that's happening across the country, and that's driving these problems. And so, to me, it's all about the neighborhood, frankly. Like, how can we come together and do traditional neighborhood watch? Can we serve folks that are in our communities that might be street dependent? I've been out knocking on doors, and every single neighborhood is impacted right now, and people are fearful for their property and for their safety. And that includes me. So Olympia City Council was not surprised by these outcomes in the survey. It's why we do it. It really shows that the work that we've been trying to do and growing is on the right track. And we've been quickly making modifications based on the survey to continue to do good work. It's important that we have the right response for people in need. So can we, for me, it's about having a response that's the right uniform, the right level of force, the right place at the right time. And so we've expanded our crisis response unit to be 24/7. We're expanding our ambassador programs, and we're seeing much more dedicated walking patrol around the community, both in the neighborhoods and in our downtown. So it's the hardest, honestly, besides housing, it's a tough question to answer. But we're working really hard with the community to have a conversation that's both representative and focused on the inequities that in the resulting criminal justice system connections that come from this conversation, because our results are not what they should be as far as equity, and we have some work to do. So we're dedicated to that conversation and looking forward to implementing hopefully some big changes in the next year or so. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Our fourth question is on the topic of housing. A neighborhood member stated, "I've lived in the same house on the northeast side of Olympia for 30 years. Homes here are older, moderate in scale. All city council actions on housing are about helping developers build market rate apartment buildings. And this does nothing to encourage home ownership, which is still a goal of most families. People like me are seeing huge property tax increases with no relief unless I sell my home and move out of Olympia." So again, another 2-part question. If re-elected to the council, what will you do to help current homeowners keep their homes? And what will you do to create a path for renters to build equity and provide some measure of economic security through ownership of their housing?
Yeah, can I have 5 minutes for this answer? And I still won't be able to get it, because I think this really is, pretty significantly complex. So we have to build housing of all types. Our city is 14,000 units behind, and that's why you're seeing the price changes rapidly out of control, because our vacancy rate is not in a healthy place. It's under 2%, and it should be near 5%. Once we have a healthy vacancy rate and the federal government raises the interest rate a little bit, our housing market should stabilize. And then we have an opportunity to look for more pathways to home ownership, because I agree with you 100%. We have to get people into home ownership so they can, build that equity and build that personal wealth like a lot of folks have been able to. And we need that to be something that's accessible for every single resident in our community. So we're building, permanent supportive housing. We're investing in, providing incentives for market rate housing and affordable housing in the full multifamily density aspect downtown. And just recently, we've adopted a set of ADU plans so that you can build a small home on your property in every neighborhood in Olympia. And we all have to do our part. We also are looking at how can we provide incentives to get those smaller units out in the neighborhood so that people can access them. One great idea that I've heard and I really like is, what if we could the city could give a loan for your impact fees or permit fees for a small unit on your property, like a mother-in-law in your garage. and then waive them if you keep the rent at a really super affordable rate for a couple of years. So maybe forgive that loan. So it's really hard, but we all have to play our part, and we have to have all of those units, or we won't be successful. If we stifle any part of the housing market, the prices will continue to skyrocket.
Thank you very much. And our fifth and final question is on the topic of land use. Actions by the City Council have effectively eliminated single-family neighborhood zoning. What would you do if reelected to council to preserve the character of existing neighborhoods, such as protecting the tree canopy, views, low traffic volumes, and adequate on-street parking, while the city pursues a policy of high-density development?
Can you say the things that you're protecting in the character again?
The ones listed in this question were tree canopy, views, low traffic volumes, and adequate on-street parking, but it's also just the broad character of the existing neighborhoods too.
Okay. Yeah, so I believe the character of the neighborhood has everything to do with the people that reside there and the ability to build mixed income, mixed race, mixed gender neighborhoods that are accessible for everyone. The South Capitol neighborhood is a perfect example of that. It has different size units, different price ranges, from rich waterfront homes to smaller multifamily, almost co-housing, workforce housing units, rooming houses, actually, right on Capitol Way. And that's a great neighborhood. It's one of our best neighborhoods. And so, for me, it's about having equity in accessibility to those neighborhoods. Of course, tree canopy and environment, parks access are huge pieces of this. But we have to do a better job making sure that all of our neighborhoods are more accessible to every single Olympian, and they reach the density goals. I live in a single family house on a corner lot, and I have room for another house, and I hope to build one someday when my income is at a place where I can pull that off, or there's other opportunities to do that. We all have to step it up, and it means our neighborhoods are going to change a little bit, but they're going to change for the better. I firmly believe that, and especially if we can find the incentives to grow those smaller units in the neighborhood and just bring different kinds of people to our neighborhood so that it will be more diverse, and maybe have more folks that can get involved in neighborhood associations and contribute to the future of our city.
Thank you. And that was our last question. So as indicated previously, you have 2 minutes for a final or some kind of closing statement.
Okay. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
So in my opening, I mentioned that I'm focused on housing, and I think it's really important to note, to the question you asked about regional partners, Olympia is single-handedly reaching the Thurston County goal for building more permanent supportive housing. 300 units by 2024 is the goal countywide. The city of Olympia, because of its home fund, is at 248 units, either open or under construction, just for permanent supportive housing. And so because of that, we're doing really well. Our regional housing council set a stretch goal of 300 additional units. That's part of the article in the paper today. And we hope to bring some of this federal money from the pandemic, as well as a future countywide home fund to the table, so that we can meet this stretch goal. We really need about 1,000 of these units so that we can help our most vulnerable neighbors get into safe and secure housing, meet them where they are, and meet their needs. And it's a tough situation, but that is not something that we have adequate resources to do, and we have to find other opportunities for funding. And when we can come together, we can leverage and we can do great things. Within our climate work, we have to implement our new landmark climate plan, led by Councilmember Parsley regionally. That's going to mean some tough choices. Most of all of the carbon emissions in our community are from commercial and residential vehicles and commercial and residential buildings. And so how can we build in new ways that are more energy efficient? And how can we find ways to adapt our existing housing stock and vehicles and transportation practices to be more energy efficient? That's a tough conversation, and we have to do it in a way that doesn't pass the bill on to our low-income neighbors. And for me, that means we have to talk about financial stability and how do we have a better opportunity or equity and opportunity for every single Olympian to find housing, find a living wage job, and take care of their families. So I'm honored to be supported by organized labor and environmental organizations alike, and I would appreciate your vote on November 2nd. Please visit electjimcooper.com to find out more.
Well, thank you. And Councilmember Jim Cooper, on behalf of the Council of Neighborhood Associations, the team of neighborhoods that collaborated to organize this forum, and on behalf, I'd like to thank the entire community. I want to thank you very much for participating in this neighborhood forum, and again for furthering our community's engagement in civic life. Thanks again.